everyone. I'm Dustin Richardson from the Burbank International Film Festival. Today we continue our interview series Beyond the Frame with one of this year's official feature film selections, Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox. Joining me today is director, writer, and actor, Stimson Snead. Stimson, congratulations on being an official selection. How are you today?
I am doing great, and I am thrilled to be here at the festival with you guys. It's a big honor, and I gotta tell you, everybody involved is very excited for the screening.
Well, let's get right into it. Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox. Please
Oh
share with our
God.
viewers. Yeah, what is this film about?
Why would I know? I just wrote and directed the thing. Okay, this is the story of a time traveler who creates a paradox and wants to understand why. That's it. It is that simple. Now, also, it may be a metaphor for self-acceptance, but that's all beside the point. So this is a laugh out loud comedy about a guy who creates this paradox, goes back in time, and is trying to figure out why. It's going to involve everything from black holes to destruction to assassins to comedy to a few very unexpected love scenes. So Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox. Hard to describe, but if you like time travel comedy and Felicia Day, you're going to have a field day with this.
It's so much fun. There's so much going on. So yes, people come out and see this film. I always enjoy chatting with directors who are also writers. So to be the person who wrote this, and then get to go out there and make it a reality must be so much fun. So what are the origins of Tim Travers? What kind of inspired you to write this film?
I was at a film festival many years ago, and I had the pleasure of seeing a movie that I won't name, but it was a very serious time travel movie. And I did not like it at all. In fact, I hated it. It was the classic case of characters who have achieved godlike power and are still focused on mundane problems like, oh, what about my schoolwork and stuff like that? You have time travel. You are a god. Forget your schoolwork. And I wanted to write a story about a character who would come at a situation like this the same way I would. And so I wrote the short film, Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox, after getting really, really drunk. And I also wanted to incorporate all the real kind of scientific questions that I get excited about, because there is actually a lot of great science around time travel. Now, spoilers, all the real science around time travel is about why you can't time travel. But there is real fascinating reasons as to why it's worth getting into, and movies never do that. And I wanted to do a kind of movie that could do that. Anyway, we made the short film. It did great. And 2 years later, I had to put together a feature because a completely different film had fallen through, and we needed to fill the work calendar year to keep everybody employed and get a shoot done. So writing-wise, we turned the short film script into a feature film script in 90 days. In fact, from the decision to make a film with no script to when we rolled camera day one was 90 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. This was not the way to write a script, let me say. This was very much me flying by the seat of my rocket pants.
So then to kind of adapt or be inspired by that short film, what was it like expanding it in that 90 days?
Well, the first thing I did was call up lead actor Samuel Dunning. He played Tim Travers in the short, and it became very clear the moment I started even toying with the idea of doing a feature that no one but Sam can play that role. I think without Samuel Dunning, there is no Tim Travers. And if I had not had Samuel Dunning, I don't think I would have made the Tim Travers feature. So the very first thing I did was call up Sam and just make sure he's available for when we have to shoot the thing. And then kind of just asking him as an actor to brainstorm with me for a little bit about what made this character tick. Because in a short film, there's not a lot of character arc. It's more about the joke and more about just exploring the time travel and nothing else. But if you're going to expand that into a feature, you need more than a story to tell. You need something you want to say, something that is meaningful and personal. So he and I talked back and forth a little bit about it. And by the end of that first conversation, we knew this needed to be a story about learning to love yourself and self-acceptance and just how extreme we can take the phrase learning to love yourself. And everything else was born out of that. I think within a few days, I knew what the film needed to be. It was just a matter of cobbling the script into something semi-functional so we could start pre-production. And then I kept revising that sucker basically right up to the day we rolled camera.
Yeah, Samuel Dunning's wonderful in this role, and you have a fantastic cast altogether. Could you tell us a little bit about who's in this film? Because there's a lot of familiar faces and funny people in this one.
The person you don't see in the film is Ronnie Yeskel, our casting director, a legend within the industry. Little films like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, those are films she did the casting on. And she's an old friend of mine, and so I kind of called her up saying, hey, I need a favor. We need world-class talent in this film. We have Samuel Dunning, who is our lead character, and an unknown, but we really need to surround him with some known actors, preferably the kind of actors who audience already have kind of a conception in their mind of who that person is. Because I like to cast against type whenever I get the option. So Ronnie Yeskel reached out, and we were extraordinarily lucky, first and foremost, to get Felicia Day, who actually came in as one of the executive producers because she liked the script so much, to play Delilah, Tim Travers' love interest for much of the film, as well as his principal foil, someone who can basically take the piss out of him.
This whole mad scientist shtick, it's like performance art. I'm just waiting for the cameras to pop out.
I mean, maybe that was just some other woman that looked a lot like her. Just a little weird that murder was her go-to response.
And then we were very lucky to get Washington State local, so one of my heroes, Joel McHale, who came in large part just to support the film and support Washington filmmakers. And Joel was so exciting for me personally because my first paying job I ever had in film was doing background on an episode of Community. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I am in the gay bash. I'm one of the handsome boys. And we were just so lucky to get Joel McHale involved, and he was great to work with. He and Sam had a great rapport.
With full love and respect, I hope you die a very painful death.
Hilariously, Joel and Felicia have several scenes together where they were not available at the same time, so we're using camera tricks to make it look like they're in the room at the same time. They were, at least a week and a half apart.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's just camera tricks. We knew we needed a badass kind of villain guy, and we were really lucky to get Danny Trejo. I mean, no one can play that kind of instantly badass, but sort of lovable, tough guy the way Danny Trejo can. So we were very lucky to have him for a few days.
How the hell do you forget about plutonium?
Oh, my God. Right. It's been a weird day.
Weird, confusing, really, really stupid.
And our very last major casting, which was a Hail Mary pass. We got this man maybe 72 hours before he was on set, was when we found out he was even going to be in the film. In fact, I didn't know he was going to be in the film until Keith David personally called me when I was driving home from set, and I answered the phone and it was like, oh my God, I know this speaking voice. I mean, we all know that speaking voice.
You'd have to be insane to observe this and think that you somehow had relevance.
And that was actually the first I knew that he was even going to be in the film. And 2 days later, he was on set. And I wish I could say the role Keith David plays, but it's kind of a major spoiler. You're just going to have to come see the movie to see exactly what Keith David is in the movie. But he is great in the role.
Definitely. That is awesome. Yeah, you have a wonderful cast here. I was really happy to see Joel involved too, because I've been a fan of his and love Community. That's awesome. You were in Community for an episode.
Yeah, one of the kids in the background.
That is very cool. You're in this too.
Yeah, well, you know what? You can't have perfect casting all the time. Yeah, I cast myself. I like to say that it was a bit of a casting couch scenario. That's how I got that role. But, I figured if I was going to make this movie, I wanted to be in it. Because when else am I going to get the chance to put myself on screen with Danny Trejo and Felicia Day? So it's like, okay, I'm putting myself in the movie. Smaller role, but still very much there. And I think an important role. And yes, also it gave me a chance to get to be... I play the hitman who is on more than one occasion murdering Tim Travers.
There's more than one of him.
Time travel story, so you can murder a guy and have him still be in the plot.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you're amazing in that role. You're really fun.
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to spoil any of the jokes around it, but yeah, you have a lot of fun moments in it. So
It's
very
fun
cool.
to gaslight a villain. Because it's like gaslighting is bad unless it's a villain, in which case you can gaslight them. It's hilarious. And poor Helter is gaslight to hell in this movie.
Samuel Dunning, obviously, he plays Tim Travers, and he's so great, like we said, and he has this wonderful cast joining him. But something so much fun about this film and complicated, for I'm sure both you as a director and Samuel as an actor, is that as the film progresses, more and more duplicates of Tim Travers appear due to this paradox. So pretty quickly, things escalate where there are just multiple versions of him on screen, and he's acting with himself.
I think the highest number of Tims we ever get on screen is about 23, is the most Tims that are ever in a single shot.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what was the process like for you to pull this off? Because they're very complicated shots sometimes.
We're using a lot of very basic tricks, but the main thing we did was try to use a variety of tricks and never do the same trick 2 shots in a row. And surprisingly, a lot of the way we did it isn't with special effects, it's with body doubles. So yes, we do standard split screens, but we also do full head replacements. So there's actually a lot of scenes where it's a completely different actor that we have digitally inserted other heads of Samuel Dunning on top of. We even have a complete CG version of Sam that we can occasionally put into shots. Like there's a couple shots where we forgot to add him, and there's just an extra Sam we added in there purely with effects. But the main way we did this was body doubles. So I got to give a big shout out to David Babbitt, who is actually credited as Beta Tim Travers in the credits, because he is the other Tim Travers. Overall, we had about 6 different guys who wear the costume at different points, but David Babbitt who gave us a full performance. So he is the hero Tim who is physically acting opposite of Sam. Every time you're looking over Tim Travers' shoulder at another Tim Travers and you can see the one guy acting, that's David Babbitt. So he put on a full performance, acted opposite of Sam. David is the reason that Sam has such chemistry with himself. The sad thing is, so David's probably one of the most important actors in the film, except then we worked very hard to hide his face for the entire production. We gave him a minor supporting role just so you could see what he actually looks like. So David Babbitt is the coffee delivery boy in the movie.
Oh, wow.
And that's literally just so we could get him on screen with his own face. We have to make another big shout out to our editors and effects team, which is Jason McKee and Travis Berry with Mode FX. We were very fortunate to have an editorial team who was also going to be running all the effects directly, because it meant everything they were doing in the edit, they were doing it already with a plan for how they're going to do the effects part of that edit. So there was never a shot in the editorial phase that we didn't already know what the effect was going to be on it, and we were budgeting as we went. So Jason McKee, who was the lead editor, really was the hero behind the camera and making this whole complicated mess of a movie come together in a way that is coherent.
You know, just in general, what was the process like for you making this film? You know, from pre-production, production to post, what was this journey like?
Fast. Like I said, we put this whole film together in 90 days without a script. It wasn't until the end of the first 30 days that we had a script, and then we spent 2 months in pre-production basically building the movie out of spare parts. But honestly, the production went very smoothly because I had such a good team around me. Northwest Passage in Washington State with Rich Cowan, Casey Cowan, and Kylie Wolchuk, producers, are an amazing team. They have done multiple TV shows, including Z Nation, numerous features. I was really able to surround myself with just a support team who knew exactly what they were doing every step of the way. I can confidently say I was the least experienced person on my own set. And I felt very great about that because it meant I was in a very safe place. And then on set, my leadership team was myself, Brian Gosling, an incredible director of photography who made this whole film look amazing, and Cheyenne Smith, my first AD. And the 3 of us have worked together on several films now, and we got to be like clockwork together. It was wonderful. I gotta say, the shooting process of this film really was, it was hard work, but it was never stressful work. As close to a perfect set as you could get in terms of the attitude and the enthusiasm of the people there. I hope every set in my life can go as smoothly as this movie did.
That's great. And there are a lot of great locations in this film, especially the abandoned buildings where Tim Travers has his lab. It's really cool. Like, what sort of locations were you working with? How'd you make that all come together?
Well, the cool thing was, this is what I like to call a spare parts movie. So because we were writing the film as we were already in pre-production while writing it, is instead of writing to whatever we wanted to tell, we built the script around what we knew we had access to. So I knew there was this nearly 200-acre massive abandoned aluminum complex that they used to use on the TV show Z Nation. And so the folks at Northwest Passage already had a regular established work history with the owners of this particular location. It was just a matter of a few phone calls, and it was like going home. The whole crew had already been there. They knew their way around the space. It kept things much safer because it is a space that can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And we just had that ready and waiting for us. We shot our principal location, Tim Travers' lab, is the same location we shot the original short film in. We knew we had access to a radio station, so we just wrote a radio station right into the script. And we knew we could get access to bars because Spokane doesn't get a lot of film shoots. And there are so many great bars and restaurants that were more than happy to accommodate us and just happy to be involved. So it's just finding the place that suited our needs best. We really did build the script to what we had and not the other way around. I had done a short film right beforehand about people abducted by aliens and trapped in a giant hamster cage that I had built a life-size hamster wheel for. A fully functioning hamster wheel. So it's like, damn it, I am going to get this hamster wheel into Tim Travers because what else am I going to do with a 7-foot tall, fully functioning hamster wheel?
That is in there. I saw it.
It actually plays a pretty significant plot point before the end.
Yeah, good for that hamster wheel. That's great.
Yeah, that hamster wheel has starred in 2 movies of mine now. I'm going to try to get it into the 3rd film one way or the other.
Yeah, every film you make, you're going to have to get that in there somehow.
I think so. I do already have the running joke that I try to get a penguin into every film that I do. And without giving away the ending of the movie, it's blink and you miss it, but I bet you saw a penguin is very important to the climax of the movie.
Oh, that's fun.
This is our time machine.
Yes, that's the time. You have it right there.
3D printed.
That's very cool.
Except the real one, a human would be about this big next to. Vincent DeFelix, he is a phenomenal artist and set designer and prop designer who works in Spokane and has a long history with Northwest Passage. I remember he sent me 20 to 30 designs when we were doing the short film. And on the very first page, tucked into the corner, no bigger than my thumb, was this design, or at least a similar version. I remember taking one look and being like, that right there is our time machine. And so he and I went back and forth on sketches for about a week, just sending pictures back and forth as we refined it. Then he brought in another gentleman to build us a 3D model of it, because Vincent is also an architect, so he will physically build these pieces. So we wanted a 3D model, so we knew exactly what this was going to look like before we built it. And that very same 3D model we turned into a scan for 3D printers. So this is the original 3D model of the machine. And then we built it, and Vincent figured out how. Nearly killed him building it for the short film. And I remember calling him a year later being like, hey, remember that thing that nearly killed you building for the short? I need you to build it a second time, but even better. This thing's like 24 feet tall in real life. It's massive.
Dang. So where's the time machine now?
Rest in peace.
Oh,
It had to be destroyed. This design is all that's left of our time machine. It lives on in my heart.
you brought this up a little bit, but I'd love to get into more detail. The visual effects are incredible. There's so much going on in this, like some really cool CGI and all this mad science mayhem. Like, what type of planning went into the visual effects?
Well, a lot of it was just doing what ModeFX told me to. They have a very clear system by how they do effects, and a lot of it was just me not rocking the boat and making sure we had the funds to let them do their jobs properly. And they are great at their jobs. I remember our very first effects meeting, Jason McHale, he sits down with me, he's got a copy of the script, and he goes, all right, normally I go through a script and I mark every place I think there's going to be an effect. I got about 3 pages into this before I realized it's just the whole damn script. There was no point even planning effect shots because we knew there was going to be so many of them. It would be better to not plan the effect shots, just edit the movie and then decide which shots need to be effect shots. So when all was said and done, there was 540 effect shots in the film, which is an insane number. And we went through them all and we were figuring out an edit. On set, we had Jason right there with us. So anytime we knew that we were shooting something that might be an effect shot, we could physically turn to Jason and say, how do we do this? And he would tell us, and then we would keep and write it down so that we would do that once we got into the edit. And then it was just letting him go through his process. I think he probably had 12 different effects artists at given times working on this thing. They did all these effects, by the way, in 4 months. All 540 shots were finished in 4 months.
That's incredible. Wow.
3/4 of the time was just the post-production. From the day I started writing the script to when we premiered the film at Cinequest in March was almost 18 months exactly. I have a very strict rule on set, which is to not micromanage. I feel a director is there to guide things creatively, to make sure that it is a specific vision being adhered to and keep everything consistent. But I don't believe in the school of thought that says a director should try to do everything and try to make all the creative choices. I'll think a lot of the work is letting other people do their jobs and to enable them to the best of your ability to make it easy for them to do their jobs. So in the case of Mode FX, just trusting they know what they're doing and giving them the tools to do it. And they did great.
I want to mention too that, because this is really cool, just a few weeks ago, you and some of the cast went to Comic-Con with this film. And that's awesome. What was that like?
A shock. Our executive producer, Ben Yenny, made it all happen for us. But yeah, we did a San Diego Comic-Con panel in the Indigo Ballroom, no less. Probably 500 people there. Our moderator was Doug Jones, of all people, who's a big fan of the movie and was at our Los Angeles screening. We had a wonderful time, but I spent the entire time in shock. I remember the first time Ben told me he was going to be talking to Comic-Con about getting us a panel there, I was thinking to myself, okay, Ben, you do that. Don't let me crush your dreams. Never gonna fucking happen. And then 2 weeks later, he calls, hey, Comic-Con wants us. And I'm like, what? How? What? And being the weird little nerd that I am, like, that's the Holy Land. San Diego Comic-Con, that is the pilgrimage of nerddom. And to be on the other side of the table on a panel was amazing. It was extraordinary, and it got us a lot of additional attention for the film. And it was so weird because our panel, I think, was happening the same night that the Deadpool panel was happening. And we're just having this weird world of big budget Hollywood films, TV shows, all the biggest stuff in the world, and Tim Travers tucked in off to the side. There was a glitch in the Matrix. It's the only explanation I can think of, but it was a wonderful sense of getting to be the nerdy kids, but getting to do our own thing. It was everything I could have hoped for and more. But yeah, incredible experience. I still haven't fully digested it mentally, that this is a thing we got to do.
And then let's step away from Tim Travers just for a moment here, because I'd love to know, like, what inspired you to become a filmmaker? What's your origin story as a filmmaker?
I don't think there's ever anything else I wanted to do. For as long as I can remember as a kid, I was an only child, so I was a kid who watched a lot of TV, a lot of movies. I was that weirdo in junior high and high school who'd go to movies by himself. I swear to God, I had friends, but I still would go to movies all the time. It's just where I always felt right, is in watching movies, watching TV. That's where I'm kind of at my happiest and most juvenile, but I love media and entertainment, and I knew this is what I wanted to do, and mostly that I wanted to get to tell my own stories, my own weird ideas, and put them into the world, for better or for worse. That's what I am incredibly fortunate that I get to do. And it's only been the last couple of years that this has that I've gotten to the point that this has become my full-time job, and it's still a job that I have days where I have to say to myself, wait, you're a director. And not like a director / barista, but just a director. What a weird, unbelievably lucky thing to get to say about my own life. And I'm just so happy and grateful for every time I get to be behind a camera.
And are there any other creative projects you're currently working on that you'd like to or can mention?
A kids film called Treat Street, about a group of trick-or-treaters who encounter the most horrible evil imaginable, teenagers who steal their candy, and the bloodthirsty life or death struggle to take the candy back. That's in development right now. We're looking to attach a studio. And the other project we're shopping around right now, if there's any zero punctuation second win Yahtzee Croshaw fans out there, we are currently seeking an adaptation of Yahtzee Crowshaw's novel Jam that will hopefully go into production sometime in the next 2 years.
And is there anything else we might not have covered you'd like to share with our viewers about the film or anything else?
just that everybody, myself, Felicia, Joel, Sam Dunning, Ben Yenny, we are all just so grateful to be a part of your guys' film festival. And we really hope to see a lot of you guys at the screening.
And my final question for you, Stimson, is one I like to ask all our guests because everyone always has great different background and different experiences. So it's your turn, Stimson. It's your turn. Are you ready? Okay. Is there any advice you would give to any aspiring filmmakers out there who might be watching this?
There are certain things that every filmmaker has heard a million times, but it is absolutely true, which is keep making film. Learn by doing. Don't take classes are great, networking is great, but nothing teaches like doing. And we live in an age where you can shoot stuff on your iPhone or your Android if you're one of those people. So go out and shoot. And the other thing, which I think you probably haven't heard before, so I want to put it out there, is don't wait for permission. This is an industry where 1 in every 100 people will ever actually get to do the job, and only 1 in 1,000 people will get to the point that they're ever making any money at it. If you wait for someone to give you permission to make films, wait for someone to take a chance on you, then the odds are overwhelmingly high that you will never get that opportunity. So create the opportunity for yourself.
That's great advice. Thank you, Stimson.
Thank you so much, Dustin. It's been such a pleasure. Burbank International Film Festival.
Yes. Yeah. September. For our viewers out there, Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox is the Burbank International Film Festival's opening night feature. So come check it out. It's playing Wednesday, September 25th at 8 p.m. at the AMC 16 right there. Come check it out. So support this film. It's a lot of fun. For tickets, visit burbankfilmfest.org. Stimson, it was so nice to meet you and talk to you about this.
Dustin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
If God actually exists, then I'm out.
Later, everybody.